The worst thing that can happen to a parent is to lose his or her child. To add to this nightmare is losing them in a way that you thought was safe, such as walking home from the school bus. Unfortunately, on February 19th, 1993, in St. Joseph, Florida, this became reality for 12-year-old Jennifer Odom's parents. Jennifer was only 12 years old at the time of her disappearance, and from family around her, she was described as a very sweet, loving, active 7th grader. She loved to do bow and arrow, water skiing, playing with her dog Gypsy, playing with her sister. According to her mom, her and her sister Jessica were just as much friends as they were sisters. The morning of February 19th was just your average morning. Jennifer got ready for school. She put on white jeans, a white turtleneck, and a white Hooters sweater with the orange lettering on the left side. Jennifer hopped in her mom Renee's car and they both drove to the bus stop. This was a routine thing because they both enjoyed each other's company and they loved talking to each other. Jennifer kissed her mom goodbye, said "I love you," and hopped onto the school bus. Her mom watched her as she entered the school bus and walked towards her usual seat in the back of the bus. The reason why she sat in the back of the bus is because after the school bus left, her mom would follow the school bus to take her path to work. Whenever they would both get to the road where the mom had to turn and they would part ways, Jennifer would always wave at her and then go about her day. I think this is very telling of how much Jennifer really loved her family, especially her mother, because when you're 12 years old, you're in middle school, and you don't want to be seen with your parents, you don't want anything to do with your parents because that's embarrassing or lame somehow. But she didn't care, and she would always wave goodbye to her mom every day on the school bus. She would ride with her mom to the school bus. So at 3 p.m., the school bus arrived at Jennifer's community, and Jennifer exited the bus and started the 200-yard journey to her house. An hour later, at 4 p.m., her younger sister Jessica, who was only 9 years old at the time, also exited her school bus and started to walk home. When she got home, though, she realized that the doors were locked and Jennifer wasn't there. At first, Jessica thought that Jennifer was playing a prank on her because Jennifer has done stuff like this before, but after a good amount of time, she realized that Jennifer wasn't there. She saw no sign of her, no backpack, no lights on, the door was locked. So she walked to her grandma's house, which was very close by. When she got to her grandma's house, she realized that Jennifer wasn't there either, so she and her grandma ended up calling her mom, Renee. When Renee heard that Jennifer wasn't home, she called Jennifer's best friend, Michelle, who also rode the same school bus as her, to ask if she even got on that day and if she exited the bus, and Michelle confirmed that she did see Jennifer exit the bus and started the journey back home. At this point, Renee realized that there was something totally wrong, so she called the police. A search party was made, and that composed of friends, family, neighbors, Good Samaritans, and volunteers. Unfortunately, 6 days later, on February 25th, her body was found 10 miles north in the Spring Lake area in Hernando County. Her body was found in a very awful state. It had only been 6 days and her body was already severely decomposed, and on top of that, she was found naked. 2 years later, her backpack and her clarinet case ended up being recovered, and they found fingerprints on it that didn't belong to family, friends, or Jennifer, and they put it in the system, but there hasn't been a match since. The children who rode the school bus that day all formed a general consensus that they all saw Jennifer get off the school bus and started the journey back home, and that they also saw an old blue pickup truck that they've never seen before following her slowly after. And the driver of the pickup truck was described as a 40-year-old white man with shoulder-length brown hair. After getting that description, law enforcement stopped hundreds and hundreds of blue pickup trucks to hopefully find a hit, but out of all the cars that they stopped, they have never found the truck that the kids have seen, nor the driver. During the 27 years of this unsolved case, there has been several potential suspects, and I'm going to list off 3 of the main ones here. Frank T. Potts was a serial killer, but he was never charged with the abduction or murder of Jennifer. I'm not entirely sure why they decided to look at Frank as a suspect. Maybe he was in the area, maybe he had connections, but it hasn't been listed yet why he was looked at as a suspect. The next suspect that they looked at was Walter Ducherme. I believe I'm saying his name right. If not, I'm going to put it on the screen here. And the reason he was looked at as a potential suspect is because his ex-wife claimed that he abducted and murdered Jennifer. Walter's name was cleared though because when his ex-wife went to a grand jury, her testimony was inconsistent. The biggest and most recent potential suspect that law enforcement is looking at is a man named Jeffrey Crum Sr. I didn't find anywhere whether or not his name was cleared, but he hasn't been charged with anything. But as of 2017, they were doing DNA evidence to see if he was connected to the killing of Jennifer. He ended up getting arrested in 2017 for abducting, raping, and attempting to murder a different teenage girl around Jennifer's age, and the two girls had very similar traits. So as of 2017, they are testing DNA evidence to see if Jeffrey did have any connection to the abduction and the killing of Jennifer. That's all that's been said since 2017 on Jeffrey, and they didn't release or not if they tested his fingerprints, which I don't see why they wouldn't test his fingerprints. They already had it. It can't take that long of a time. So I'm pretty sure they did, but they haven't released anything since, probably to protect the integrity of the case. During the 27 years since Jennifer was abducted and murdered, there has been numerous amounts of tips that came in. There's over 75,000 page files of them, currently to this day. And there's been over 1,000 pieces of evidence that came in, and they still haven't found the person who did it, and it's been 27 years, and that person's been free for 27 years. It's just crazy. Today, Jennifer is buried at Sacred Heart Cemetery in Dade City, very close by to where she used to live with her family. If you have any information on what happened to Jennifer or her killer, please call 352-797-3714. Definitely let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments on this case, and if there's another case that you'd like to see me cover, definitely let me know. Thank you, and have a nice day.